All right, brothers, we're back with The Making of a Vampire. Continued with, I think, chapter 4. You just wish to speak to him? This is a continuation, obviously, and you'd have to watch the last one for this to make sense, but there you go. You just wish to speak to him? That's right. Master, I see you have power over many demons like him. You can get nothing from this one. He is too weak. I want nothing from him. I just wish to speak to him. I want nothing from him. I just wish to speak to him. You may be deluded, esteemed master, by some misleading informant. This vampire is so weak that he is barely able to walk. He is looking for vital energy and cannot find the source he needs. He cannot even answer a regular invocation because he lacks the strength to move. He lies in a marble grave not far from here and is almost impotent. Are you sure you wish to speak to him? Yes, I am. Well, esteemed master, in this case, you have to go to his place because at least for the time being, he cannot come to you. Can you lead me to his place? Well, esteemed master, it is very dangerous. The place is in a lonely cemetery haunted by ghosts. You can be killed by other demons. Oh, can I really? If what he says is true, I will pay him my fortune for just bringing me there, Saint Germain said to himself with a sigh. Then, esteemed master, the guide who leads you there might be killed too. Do you know do you know his place? Can you take me there? Well, master, yes, of course, but it is dangerous. And I? How much? Well, master, do you pay in kreutzers? No, I pay in gold. In real gold? Look, fool, here's what I pay in. Saint Germain took out of his pocket 3 gold sequins and threw them on the table. The 3 coins glittered under the yellow-reddish light of the wax candle, and Inces's eyes were bright with greed. Your honor, I will take you there. When do you wish to go there? Now, fool. Now? Yes, fool. Now, are you ready? Will you take the sequins or not? Your honor, it is daytime. The vampire is a corpse now. He cannot even speak. You just come in my carriage and take me there now. You understand? Now. Well, your honor, if you wish it so, I'll take you there now, but let's find a better place for those sequins. He put the gold coins in a hole behind the place reserved for the snakes, and then he turned to Saint Germain. I am at your service, your honor. Are you ready to go? They both went out. It was a cold, rainy day in December, but not cold enough to change the rain into snow. The road was empty of travelers and full of muddy pools, half frozen. Leafless trees bordered that lonely road on both sides. Flocks of ravens flew in the gloomy sky or pecked at their food on the gray, bare field that spread over to some distant hills. The coachman took half an hour under Inces's guidance to reach the cemetery. It was a remote place with tombstones eaten away by rain and snow in the vicinity of a synagogue. This is the cemetery? Saint Germain asked Ince. Yes, your honor. The vampire has chosen this place because there are no crosses here. He can't abide the cross. One of the tombs was built of marble. There, the golem. There Ince stopped the coachman and respectfully showed Saint Germain the entrance. Inside the tomb, in the vault, it was freezing and humid, dark and musty. On the left side, there was a niche, with the coffin covered with dark green mold. Snails were moving slowly across the cover, leaving behind them trails of slime. Shuddering with cold horror, Saint Germain removed the cover and looked in the coffin. There he saw the vampire lying face down, a thin body of a skeleton, covered with a dry yellowish skin, spotted with a brown fungus. Translucid vermin came in and out of the asshole. Okay. And hairy spiders were huddling along the backbone and round the armpits. Sorry, it just always sneaks up on you when he puts in one of these profanities. It stank like an old putrid shit. Gritting his teeth, Saint Germain grasped the shoulders of the creature and lifted it slightly, bringing the head out of the coffin and leaning it on the edge. He quivered when he noted several disgusting maggots laying their eggs in the eye's sockets. He put his left hand on the nape of the vampire and took his own dick in his right hand, moving it back and forth in masturbation. Okay. At the same time, he whispered the ancient formula of invocation of the death satyr, rotas, Aleppo, opera, etc. When he felt the orgasm approaching, he put his dick in front of the vampire's mouth and ejaculated on the vermin that was swarming on the ugly, wry mouth. Then he covered the creature's mouth with his hand and shook the head. But for the first time in his life, long experience, the magic did not work. Saint Germain went to the other side of the vaults and rested for a while. Then he began the whole ritual again. To no avail, the skeleton didn't move. The vampire didn't wake up. He heard outside the worried voices of Inces and the coachman. He went out and told them to quiet down. He then tried again to wake up the vampire, and again he failed. However strong Saint Germain was, he felt exhausted under the circumstances and eventually gave up. Perplexed as he was, he told Inces about the failure. I could serve your honor with a reason for this failure. Can you, your honor, spare one more sequin? Saint Germain took a gold coin out of his pocket and threw it on earth. Inces picked it up quickly and said, the law of this vampire is very strict. Under no circumstances can he wake up in daytime, not even under the strong spell uttered by your honor in the process of masturbation. Beishun. This spell is very good with the ordinary dead, and I made use of it several times. It really works with common people, but this case is special. Your honor should come back at midnight. I wonder what this masturbation spell is. What the fuck? Saint Germain understood he had no other choice. He took Inces back to the village and then went home to Alba Iulia. Now he knew where to find the vampire. At midnight, he rode alone on his carriage to the cemetery and called again the vampire to life. This time, the vampire awoke slowly and faintly, turned his face up, and looked wildly at Saint Germain through the maggot eggs that blurred his vision. You asked me to do something abominable, the vampire whispered in a hoarse, thin voice. I cannot do such a thing. After all, I am a male like you. I can have sexual intercourse with a cohort of women, but I loathe to do such an act with you. It is much below my status. You need blood, Saint Germain replied. What matters to you if you take it from a girl or from a man? You bite my neck, and that's all. It is not the bite that matters, the vampire whispered again. It is a wholesome process of a particular charm, involving sex appeal and vanity, pleasure and delusion, deception and too late remorse. I am very much in need of blood, but it would be a disgrace to accept it in the manner you offer it. I am not a homosexual. Saint Germain turned pale. Neither am I, but I offer you my blood freely. I have even come here and have brought it to you by my free will. You don't need wandering in search for it. You have more power than I do, but you must be very base to insist. And then you lie. You don't offer me your blood freely. You do expect compensation. You do expect to die after I suck you, but this compensation is not available to you, and you know it. I know, Saint Germain confessed, and I see that the gallantry of your spirit is to say flattering things about me in such a pleasing manner. But I am desperate. I tried vainly to die in battle, fire, flood, and tempest. I have lived for 18 centuries and am deadly bored. You cannot even imagine how bored I am. This is my last chance, and I am ready to arrive with you at any agreement you desire. All what I need is blood. I am only in need of blood. You have nothing else to offer me. Yes, I have. I offer you a castle. I offer you wealth. I offer you a seigneury and the seigniorage of a count. You will be venerated and feared by all those poor devils living and working on your big estate, as well as by your noble neighbors. There in your castle I will bring you any girl you wish, and will feed you with the most refreshing blood in the world. I've told you all what I have to tell. If you can bring me girls, do it. Now go home, but before leaving, have the civility to put me back in the coffin. Don't let me hang half out as you did hours ago. Dude, he fucking... Saint Germain was desperate indeed. He was unable to foresee another possibility of getting rid of his human life. His only chance was to remain in touch with the vampire, he said to himself, and determined the creature to work on his behalf. It was compulsory for him not to lose that chance. But how on earth could he convince the ghost to make use of his particular powers and suck his blood? Saint Germain's under the spell and changed the victim into another ghost. He struck upon an idea to change the vampire into a worldly count and endow him with wealth and a castle, then to fetch him a young girl who would become a vampire after being bitten, and then to let this she-vampire bite him in turn seemed to Saint Germain to be the sole way to achieve his goal. However disgusted he was to touch the vampire again, he put that wreck back, face down, then covered the coffin and went out of the vault. Outside it was snowing quietly over the tombs, and in the dark night, in that immense darkness, without moon, without stars, Saint Germain perceived one light only in a window nearby. It was the first candle of Hanukkah. The horses of his carriage neighed, perhaps because of the cold, or because of the pervading silence, or because of something weird they felt in that immense darkness. Saint Germain looked into the trunk of the carriage for horse blankets, found a few and covered the horses, then took the Hanukkah light as an orientation point and drove off. All the way back to Alba Iulia, he worked up a plan which was designated to convince the vampire to accept his offer. The plan resulted instead in the establishment of Count Dracula in a Transylvania castle. From Alba Iulia, Saint Germain went back to Paris, where he lived on under his French name for a few more years. He liquidated all his possessions and changed his assets into gold. In 1784, he allegedly died. There's the golem. Kind of looks like Charles Bukowski. Nobody found his body in the house where this rich man, the Count of Saint Germain, had lived was empty at his death. Of the wealth which once surrounded him, the people of Paris learned that the once opulent Count of Saint Germain had died as poor as a commoner. A legend of Bratislava, however, maintained something else. According to this legend, Inksa, the sorcerer of the village near Alba Iulia, suddenly became wealthy and gave up his craft. The way he acquired his wealth was the common talk of the villagers. One night, Inksa helped a weird stranger to vandalize a vault in the cemetery near the local synagogue. The peasants were almost sure that the two men discovered a treasure in that vault and made away with it. They knew the treasure was heavy because the carriage used by Inksa and his companion left deep traces on the road that led to the gate of the cemetery. Then the villagers found 3 gold sequins in Inksa's house in a hole where the sorcerer kept his snakes. How much gold did he take with him? A villager asked. If he could afford to forget these 3 sequins here. When the marshal of the district inspected the vault for his report, he found only an empty coffin, which seemingly had sheltered the treasure, if he were to believe the peasants. Some people used, indeed, to hide gold in old tombs, but in this case, apart from a few spiders and snails which were moving slowly on the bottom of the empty coffin, there was no trace of a treasure. Nobody suspected that the coffin did not shelter money, but a vampire. In London, a certain Marquis de Montferrat, which once was the name used by Saint Germain during his sojourn in England, filled his will in the surrogate court, providing for the distribution of his properties, which included the mansion, an estate in London, and a considerable sum of money deposited in a bank. The inheritor was described as a Count of Transylvania. Several years after the end of the French Revolution had passed, and the judicial officer who made a report on that will found reason to believe that the sum of money came from France, whereas the original documents had been lost in the terrible turmoil of the Revolution, he could not take a decision on the basis of what he had in the file. The missing documents created a state of incertitude that resulted in an indefinite adjournment of the probate. The money remained in the bank, and the accumulated interest was added year after year, waiting for the inheritor, the Count of Transylvania, to claim his right. The mansion and estate were administered by an executor. Many years passed, and the village near Alba Iulia, Insa, was completely forgotten. The vandalization of the vault was forgotten also. However, the story of the tomb was told by Insa before his death and passed into legend. Insa helped indeed Saint Germain to take the vampire out of the vault and bring him to a remote castle of Transylvania. Insa was well paid for his contribution, became rich, and gave up witchcraft. He later repented for what he had done and confessed that his whole existence had been contrary to the laws of Mother Nature. He told his story in such a moving way that some of his friends remained deeply impressed. They passed the story on to others at fairs or social gatherings. After several more years, the bailiff of Count Dracula of Transylvania retained several contractors to do some interior repairs for his castle. The bailiff was a man in the prime of his life. There's Tycho Brahe, the famed astrologer of Uraniborg near Prague. Richly dressed, handsome, and aggressive, he was definitely a foreigner, for his speech was very accented. He was the first to move into the castle when the repairs were finished, and to establish contacts with the peasants, to buy horses, hire servants, purchase provisions. Nobody suspected, of course, that the bailiff was Saint Germain himself, who transferred a good part of the wealth of London to Transylvania and put it at the disposal of Count Dracula. The Count came to the castle probably at night, for nobody noticed his arrival. The neighbors became aware of the Count's presence because the windows of the most spacious tower, where there were the bedrooms, and which lately had been in darkness, were now lighted and remained so throughout the night. The servants came to the castle in daytime, did their menial jobs, and left in the afternoon. No one slept in the castle, and no one saw the Count, but they knew he was there. They also heard about things of a very suspicious nature that happened in the castle after the Count's arrival. And that's all for that chapter. Oh, geez. The Making of the Vampire, which I believe is the next, or the last chapter, is next, bruv. We'll take a look at the index to see if it is indeed. No. Yeah, it is. 127. The Making of the Vampire. All right, bruvs, goodbye.